What's going on, everyone? Welcome to the Tell Me More podcast presented by the Real Estate Cheat Code. I have Sue Lusk-Gleich with us with the Columbus team at Keller Williams Capital Partners Realty. Sue, thanks so much for taking your time, out of your day, out of your busy schedule to jump on here and just share your story. And, we connected a couple weeks ago. You had some questions about, the podcast and, so I got to understand a little bit about your journey, and I'm excited to actually dive in and ask you some questions because I know that you have a wealth of knowledge and information from the real estate side of things, but that's not the only thing that we talk about here. So thanks so much for jumping on and joining us.
Hey, thanks for inviting me. I've never done this, so this will be fun.
It'll be great. It's going to be awesome.
Okay.
So where we like to always start off with the Tell Me More podcast is the very beginning. I do believe that, our early life and experience, has an impact on, just how we live life. And ultimately that bleeds into our real estate business. So for you, Sue, what was life like for you growing up as a kid? Did you, are you from here? Did you have any hobbies, any interests?
I'm from a military family. My father was in the Air Force for 37 years. So we lived everywhere across the world and got to know a lot of different peoples and cultures and things like that. So it was a great experience as a kid, but you had no roots other than your family unit. So where your family was where your roots were. So as I became an adult and got married and had a child, I thought I want to live in one space. I want my son to grow up in one school system, one neighborhood. I wanted everything that I didn't have, right? And it was interesting. It's been great. I mean, I made Columbus, Ohio, specifically Clintonville, our home, and it was a great place to raise a kid. But the minute he graduated from college, he moved to Vail, Colorado, and he hasn't returned home since 1991. So he has the same wanderlust that I sort of have, But,
Yeah, it's interesting, a military family and moving around a lot in different cultures. So, all over the world. What kind of stands out as a great memory for you? And I asked that question too, because as a real estate agent, obviously being able to connect with strangers and meet new people is a skill set that some agents, have to learn. Some people have it naturally. So I'm assuming that has played into your real estate career, when we get to that point. But just anything stand out from childhood for you?
Not specifically. I'm kind of an introvert at heart. So, but I do love to connect with people. I love to hear their stories. And it's always so interesting to me, how we can be different but so much alike, right?
Yeah.
And I don't care where we come from. So, but I just love hearing people's stories and what makes them tick and what makes them excited about this life and living and doing what they do. I happen to love the business we're in. Obviously, I've been in it a really long time, and I think it's mostly the people. It isn't really the transaction, although that helps pay the bills.
Yeah.
I just love that learning about them and making a difference for them if I can, through the business and that type of thing. And they all will often remain really good friends and clients for years.
Yeah.
I've sold generations at this point.
Well, and that's the name of the game, right? That's, I always tell agents getting into the business, one of the reason why I do this podcast, I'm passionate about helping people get into the industry. Like that is my thing, because my mentor, I feel like I got lucky. Those that watch this have heard me say this multiple times, but, I do not believe that the failure rate needs to be 87%, right? I believe that, real estate is simple but hard. And the more stories that I'm able to share of showing, people watching this come from walks of life, different career paths, right? Different ways of building their business. Hopefully that will resonate with more people as we continue to do these and have this conversation. But Sue, kind of lead me up to, the point of your life. Take me down that journey. Did you go to college after high school? Did you get into the workforce right after high school? Lead me up into the point of you deciding that real estate's going to be your career path.
Well, I didn't even know what a deed was when I started real estate school, to be perfectly honest about it. I had moved to Columbus, Ohio with my ex-husband, who promptly left a couple of years after we moved here. By invitation. I have to believe it wasn't, he didn't make the decision, I did. And I was working for Hi-Fi Gasoline over on Riverside Drive. I was leading their accounts payable department. I did go to college. I majored in physical education, thought I wanted to be a physical therapist, ended up getting married. I wanted to go to Marshall University for physical therapy school. And I got denied the first time I tried. So I went and got married. I'm like, okay, we're done with this. And we moved to Columbus, Ohio. And because that's where his family was. And so I went to work for this gasoline firm, and I was head of their accounts payable department. And I was a head of 12 women. And he and I got divorced, so I was on my own. I'm supporting a son by myself. And I couldn't take the being over 12 women. All day long, all you did was referee little spats and things that went on. And then you had to do your work at night, right? And it didn't really work well with a single mom. So, my responsibilities as a single mom. So Mary Jane Carr was the realtor that we had used, and that was the first broker I went with. I went and talked to her, and I said, I'm kind of interested in this real estate business. I don't know anything about it. And she's like, oh my gosh, she'll make you a great realtor. And I'm like, well, what makes you say that? She was really positive about it. So when you talk about great mentors in your life, she was my first one in this business. I worked with her for 13 years. She was just a small firm on High Street in Clintonville. And it was scary. It was scary giving up a salary to go to a professionally fee-based business with a son that you were supporting. Fortunately, I had no house payment. I mean, I wasn't in charge of the house payment. I had to put gas in my car. I had to feed Johnny, and that was, my responsibilities were small, so I could afford to do that. And Mary Jane was really good about pushing me out the door and saying, you got to go talk to people and things like that. So that's kind of how I got started. It was more I thought going into real estate would allow me more time with my son. And it was more flexible. I could go to ball games and things like that.
Yeah.
I kind of learned really quick you could work any 80 hours you wanted.
Well, it's one of those things. It's like one of the great myths of our industry, unless you set up your business a certain way, right? And we can definitely touch base on that because, again, like a lot of people think they're getting in because they're going to make more money and have more freedom and flexible schedule. And, you can have those things. It just depends on how you really set up your business. But Sue, before we dive into that, did you have any interest in real estate prior to making the decision of wanting to? So how did you just come to the idea that real estate was going to be kind of your next step?
Well, I was kind of looking a way to get out of that corporate position. And I didn't have too many friends in Columbus, Ohio, because I was fairly new. I never even heard of Columbus, Ohio until I moved here. And so Mary Jane was one of those people. She had sold us our house. And so I just went to talk to her to tell her I was looking for something new. And I thought maybe, I was actually asking for a job. I didn't realize I was going to become a realtor. I was just looking to get away from the corporate thing.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, so she talked me into going to school and getting my license, and yeah, so that started the journey.
What I gotta ask, what just because we have a big change, those that are maybe watching this now and maybe after August 17th, right? We have a big change coming. What year did you get licensed?
1974.
And I wanted to ask that because I think you can bring a lot of perspective to this call, right? You've seen different real estate markets, you've seen a lot of different changes within the industry, right? And so we'll dive into that. But I wanted to ask you, you mentioned, right, you have a young son at home, right? You want to get away from corporate. You're making the decision to go into this 100% commission-based industry. Did people think that you were crazy back then for doing that, given everything going on, or did you have supporters?
Well, I'll tell you, my father was one of probably my biggest supporters of anything I did, but I didn't completely drop out of the earning world to start a real estate career. I took a position or I took a waitress job
Mm.
at I mean, coming from college, I mean, where I waited tables all the time, I knew that I could make enough to live on, just serving lunches if I was at the right restaurant. So I went to work for Schmidt's Sausage House on the patio. Most lovely family to work for, the Schmidts, ever. They were fabulous. I worked from like 10 minutes of 11 to 2 o'clock. That was it. I didn't have to bus a table. I didn't do anything. I served sausages for 3 hours, and I picked up my tips and I went home. And I think I got paid $1.25 an hour. So it was all tip based, right?
Yeah.
But it was a cash business. It's very different today. You have to, that employer reports your, monies and stuff. But it was enough to get me by while I got started in real estate, because you don't just jump out of the gate when you know nobody in Columbus, Ohio, and make it work. But as I said, I had Mary Jane, I had a great mentor. And then Pat Kearns Davis came into my life. We were in a law class together, and she was working for Larry. She had just gotten her license too. She was working for Larry Horn on the South End. And I said, "Oh, you should come and talk to Mary Jane. She'd love to talk to you." So she came up, and I'm telling Mary Jane, I'm bringing this girl in. She sold lots of real estate, and you should talk to her and bring her into our pack. And so Mary Jane interviews Pat, and she asks her, "Well, how many houses have you sold?" She said, "None." But she hired her, and Pat and I have been dear friends ever since. But
Hey, your negotiation skills were on point from the very beginning.
right. But my first year in the business, I sold. This is how times have changed since 1974. I got my license in March of 74. March to March of 75, I sold 19 homes,
Wow.
all under $21,000. So you added up. Now living expenses were a lot less
Yeah.
then.
It's
But
one of those things where I never focus, especially with new agents, right? Like I care about the effort of the transaction number, the count, not the volume, right? And
right.
when you said 19, 1 year and first year in the business, right? This is obviously we're not talking about internet leads, right? We're not talking about social media,
Oh, no,
we're not talking about, right? This is you probably out there networking, getting face to face, building relationships and all of that. How did
no.
you, I mean,
Well,
19 is
it was also a different time. When you had a sign in the yard, you got sign calls.
yeah.
So I had to talk to people, and I had to engage them. And, you know, I came, I started coming from the area of educating a client. That's exactly how I started. That that they will make good decisions if they're educated on the process and how it goes, and that I'm in their corner, I'm their cheerleader, I'm advocating for them, I'm caring for them, that all that sort of stuff. So that's how I did it, through open houses and just people sign calls. I could talk them into coming into the office. I had a couple lenders. This was really great. My first year in the business, there was this gentleman named Dave Schaefer. Dave Dewey always cracks me on Dave Schaefer. But Dave Schaefer, if I held an open house, David Schaefer, who was a local lender, came and sat at my open house and educated me on financing. Taught me about VA, taught me about FHA, how to qualify, the conventional. And I know a lot of realtors today do not do that in their consults with a buyer, but I do. I still talk to them about their financial picture, and because I have to know how I can help them.
Yeah.
And if I don't understand the whole package, then it's hard to help,
Yeah.
in my opinion. Now I'm kind of old school, so
I think it's spot on, right? It's literally, we as agents, for us to truly do our job the right way and to advise the client the right way, we have to know everything. It's not just what they want in a home, right? It's, well, do you plan on having kids or not? How long do you want to be in this home, right? What's your down
what
payment?
motivates you? Yeah.
Yep.
Mhm.
Are you sure you want to live out in the country because of X, Y, and Z versus living in the suburbs, right? And I think a lot of people, because, and I think the change that, is happening now takes us back to a consultation setting. Whereas over the last 5, 6, 7 years, when the market's been crazy, right? A lot of times I think those consultations have been missed or skipped or haven't gone in depth, not by everyone, but I think by, the majority of real estate agents, right? We've all skipped steps or become lazy in some areas, to where I think now we're going to move back to kind of what you were talking about, and what you did was, we're going to have a consultation and we're going to do a deep dive.
So I think technology has really changed our world in a lot of very positive ways, but I think also in a very negative way.
Mm.
And because to me, real estate is all about the relationship. And I cannot have a relationship over a text message or a Zoom call or something like that. Now, yeah, we had to do business very differently during COVID. And that was a big adaptation that we had to do. I sold many houses during COVID where they never saw the house till the day they walked into it to move into it, because they were coming from across the country and they just couldn't travel to get here. And what we had to do, those 2-hour walkthroughs to show them a house and that sort of thing. But technology, I think, has made us lazy too. And for that reason, I'm really careful about how I use it. I love it, but it's only a tool.
Yeah.
That's all. It's just like the pencil that I write with. It's a tool. And you still have to maintain that relationship and that face-to-face and talking things through and coaching them through the process.
That's why I always say real estate's simple but hard, right? Because the simplistic way is, it all comes down to this, Sue, and you know this. How many real estate conversations did you have today? Right? It doesn't necessarily matter how that happens. It could be open houses, it could be networking events, it could be door to door, it could be, right, internet leads, it could be whatever. But it comes down to how many real estate conversations did you have today? And I'm curious. You started out, year one, 19 transactions. How did you continue building your career? Kind of take me down some of the journey, the path of your real estate career.
Well, I had a great mentor. I was surrounded by great people. Pat and I sort of started in the industry together. So it was kind of a competition in our little office, Um, we were young and she was single. I was single. It was a little bit different because I had a kid. So I had other responsibilities before she got married and had children. But it was really organically just staying in touch with the people that I had. I was so grateful that these people, I remember when Mary Jane said to me, just go knock on doors. And I'm like, well, what do I say to them? She said, it doesn't matter. They know less than you do. I'm like, that's impossible. Nobody knows less than I do about real estate. She said, you'll be fine. Just talk to them, you know. And and that's what I did. I just did what I was told to do. And it probably wouldn't kind of work today because people don't want you approaching their doors randomly. But once I started and I had that base, it sort of snowballed, and I was young. I had a lot of referrals, they, the people I worked with didn't have any more money than I did. So I had to find ways to help them get financed and that sort of thing. And I did dabble in the commercial world when I first got into a lot of investments and that sort of thing, which taught me a lot about how to finance things when things were tough, like piggyback mortgages, wraparound mortgages, things such as that, creative ways to do real estate that was being practiced in the commercial world. So in the early 80s, when the interest rates went to 17, 18% interest, right? I'm like, okay, I gotta move one way or the other. I gotta move commercial or I gotta move residential. Well, commercial was starting to become very specialized as it is today. If you're in warehouses, you're in warehouses. If you're in retail, you're in retail. And I looked at the residential side and I thought, okay, residential can get a paycheck in 30 to 45 days. Whereas in commercial, you might have to wait a whole lot longer, right?
Yeah.
And so I slid over to all residential, except for small investment type properties, because I was buying properties and doing 1031 exchanges. And so I have just enough knowledge to be dangerous in that field. But I slid over to that during that really high interest rate time. And that's when people were having a hard time understanding. You could do a carryback. You could do a second mortgage. You could do a lot of things. So as we went through that high interest rate period, I still sold real estate because I knew how to put a transaction together. And what I found was a lot of times you had to educate the other agent because you'd send them an offer and they're like, what does this mean? How does this work? And so that's one of the points I was going to make. I think relationships are really important, especially with your clients and stuff, but I think they're very important with other agents. I love our peer group. I think they're fascinating people. We all come from different walks of lives and we have different experiences. And I think we're a very interesting group of people. But I also think as agents, we have something different than the rest of the world. I mean, we get up every morning seeking work. We don't go to a job. We have a business and we're running it and we're getting up and going out there and looking for that work.
Yeah. And, the one thing that I missed early on in my career that I did not do was the relationship amongst other agents. I was just focused on my business and building our team that we were building. And I didn't care at the time to know who I was co-oping with. And that wasn't my focus. And, over the last 5, 6, 7 years, obviously that has switched a little bit. My business is more mature. I'm more mature. Back then I was, a young kid and didn't really care. And so, but I think you're spot on because, and I believe this will be true a little bit more moving forward. is that, the relationships that you do or do not have with agents can make or break transactions happening.
Always has. So Mary Jane is really the one that instilled that in Pat and I, in that she always said, well, first off, she made us go to the board and join a committee, the Columbus Realtors. She's like, you need to join a committee. It's where you're going to meet your peers. You're going to work collaboratively with them to better your profession. But she always said, be the best co-op you can be. Don't make it hard. Don't make it difficult. Find solutions. Be the best co-op you can be. And I am still committed to that today.
Yeah.
That's huge, in my opinion. You know, during the time when you talked about where we had so many offers, so often you get multiple offers on a house, and then you'd submit an offer and you'd never hear back from the agent.
Yeah.
The buyer actually called you and said, I see it's in contract. And you're like, what? You know, I think our courtesy to the other members of our industry at that time was at the very, very minimum was to send an email or a text.
Mm-hmm.
But I always tried to make it a habit. And this is really into one house, I had 31 offers. But I called every single agent, everyone, and told them they didn't get it and that sort of thing.
Yeah.
For the most part, I got a great reception for that from people. Some jumped all over me, and I'm like, well, I didn't make the decision. So, I feel, that agent sticks out. You remember them, right?
Yeah.
How hot-headed they got with you. But then remember, we're just the messenger, right?
Yeah. Well, and as agents, right, we all have the short list, right? We always remember, how people, other agents treated us and so forth. Sue, I'm curious because I know you mentioned this off camera. You've only been with 3 companies, your whole career. Did you ever become, because I don't know this answer, did you ever become a broker, or were you just no desire?
I have no interest in being a broker.
Yeah, you think about it, right? A lot of times people, they go from a solo agent that's producing at a higher level to then they want to build a team. I don't know if you built a team or not. And then it's like, okay, go from team to broker, or skip the team thing and go from independent agent to starting your own brokerage. Did you ever go down any one of those paths, or have you always just been kind of a solo practitioner?
No, I'm not a solo practitioner. I have 9 people. There's 9 people on the Columbus team. And there's a lot of longevity on our team. There's been, let's see. We have one that's been with me 30 years, almost 30
Wow.
years. Yeah, 25.
That's awesome.
Yeah. So we've only ever had 2 people really leave the team. I started a team 35 years ago with an assistant. I started with a part-time assistant who was my niece, who didn't even know how to type. And we were just starting to get into computers. I sent her to Bliss College to learn to type. And then I really learned that I needed her more than 20 hours a week. And it was amazing. Everybody kept saying, I was going to these conferences nationally to learn what they were doing across the country, these big producers. I wanted to understand how they were leveraging themselves. And so I learned a lot through going to these conferences and these masterminds. And so I just started building a team that way. I started first with an assistant because I do believe that should be your first hire before you take on an agent. So because you need to have systems in place, you need to have you need to be able to offer something to an agent that you want to attract to your group, right?
Yep.
So it's the support staff, it's the systems, it's everything that you can help provide them to succeed. And so I started a team. It's 35 years, grew it, Um, and December of 2019, well, in 15, let's see, yeah. So I was president of Columbus Realtors in 2010. Okay, I'm just going to go back there.
Yeah.
So I spent 5 years doing that. And when I did that, I realized that's when I really realized the value of my team. They picked up and they didn't even need me. They did not need me. I was not as important as I thought I was. This operation could run without me.
Yeah.
And I got to thinking, I by 15, I'm thinking I'm tired. I mean, I'm out of energy, I'm out of ideas. I'm coaching my team, I'm in production, I'm an investor in a market center. And and I thought, I need to bring more to this team than what I'm capable of doing. I mean, I just had come to that point. So I looked around me and I'm like, well, I built this business. What am I going to do with it? Right. Um, and I have all these fabulous people that I can't let down now. I mean, I've empowered them and we've grown up together in the business. And so I looked around and there were two people on my team, Patrick Florence and Aaron Ogden Oxender. And Aaron had been with us. Aaron had been with us 12 years at that point, and Patrick had been almost 20 years with us. And in 15, I said to them, are you at all ever interested in running this team, having this team, make it yours? And they both said yes. And so I'm like, okay, now what do I do? I mean, how do I make that happen? Because we don't have a lot of history in our industry on selling your practice and how do you do that and how do you prepare for it and all that. So I hired a coach. It's always my answer. Go hire a coach, right? So I hired a coach out of Arizona. And I told her what I wanted to do and, kind of what it looked like to me. And for 4 years, she coached me and she coached Aaron and she coached Patrick. And we set the vision, we set the mission, even though we had one.
Yep.
Now it had to include 2 other people, right? How I was going to do it. And I could have taken them on as partners. There's a lot of different things I could have done. So I had to decide, what did I want to do? I decided what I wanted to do was be out of the management of the team, period. I don't want to, I will consult with them. I will do whatever they need me to do, but I want to work for them. So then we went down that path. Like for a couple of years, Patrick worked with our team accountant and learned all about the finances. Aaron's more in charge of the human resource piece of it and the coaching and that sort of thing. So finally, December 31st, 2019, I sold the team to them. Yeah. And now I work for them. I've not worked on a split in many, many years, but now I do. And I got to tell you, I love it. I absolutely am loving it. And they are killing it, leading this team. Yeah. They have taken this team places that I had a dream of taking, but I could never quite get there.
Yeah.
And it's just that young energy getting, and so I knew it was time to back off and let somebody else drive this bus. And they have killed it. So it's really interesting way to do.
Yeah, no, I have just a couple questions around that. One, congratulations, because I don't think a lot of agents, and obviously I don't think you did it early on, but I don't think a lot of agents actually think about what the exit strategy looks like, right?
Exactly, and it's a lot of preparation, let me tell you.
Yeah, it's not something, you basically went on a 4-year journey, and so it's not something that you just decide overnight of like, okay, I'm going to sell off my database and my systems. Well, it doesn't work like that, and
Right.
um, and to do that successfully, and to do that in a way that, as you were saying that, I was like, man, Sue doesn't have an ego, right? Like Sue wants
Oh no,
what's best
I have
for,
no ego,
yeah,
believe
Sue,
me.
Sue wants what's best for the team and for the agents. And one of the things I was going to ask you is, in an industry where there's very little loyalty that goes on, how, what is it with your team that you have the loyalty? Can you pinpoint, something, or just share something? Because, you know, to have multiple agents longer than 10 years is amazing. And then you throw a couple, 20 some years, that's fantastic. You don't see that in our industry very often.
I think you just, I, I wish I had a magic formula, right? Because it was all trial and error when I started it,
Yeah.
because nobody was doing it, right? And I just looked at it as to how I wanted to be treated. I didn't want people to think they were minions to me. They were equals. They were equal partners in this business. They helped drive this business, this team. And so I think mostly if you empower people, they and you include them in your vision of what this looks like, they will stay with you. You create the environment. You give them whatever they need. Every one of them I paid for coaching for. I mean, I believe in coaching.
Yeah.
I think it's a really valuable piece of our business. Like, and if it was coaching they needed for even outside the business, you know, hey, I'm here to help you and help you grow. And I want them to be wildly successful.
Yeah.
It's just like raising a kid, right? You raise a kid, you give them wings, you want them to fly. You're a young dad, you're going to learn this. And when they fly the nest, you're like, really, oh my God. But um, yeah, so I think it's about empowering people, and they had a say in our business. Everybody had a say in our business. I never made a hire without passing it by everybody on the team at that time, because that person was becoming part of a family, and they had to fit. And believe me, I've interviewed many people that we never took on because somebody on the team said it wasn't a fit.
Yeah.
And you know, a lot of time, if you include other people in your decision making of things like that, they look at things differently than you do, right? And so it's crazy. And a prime example is a gal that's been with us now. I think Jean's been with us, I think 20, 22 years, something like that.
Wow.
Jean is a realtor, but she's our lead. She runs our team. She runs the operations. She is our operations manager, but she is licensed. But Jean, I was down to interviewing two people. I take a very slow approach to hiring people. Very slow. Some people say too slow, but it took 3 months to hire her to replace somebody that had been there in that role for 10 years. And um, I, you know, I had the team interview both. I had team leader interview both, and I sat and listened. It's just the process that you go
Mhm.
through. And so at our last team meeting, when I was ready to make an offer to one of them, I went around the room to every team member and I said, who do you want to hire? Who do you see as part of our team? And every person said, Jean, Jean, Jean. And they looked at me and they said, who do you want? I said, Amy. And they're like, why? Every team member wanted Jean,
Yeah.
and I wanted Amy. And I said, because she has the computer skills. They're like, Jean's learning base. She'll learn them. And
Mhm.
she's an amazing tech person now too.
Yeah.
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 So that's a great lesson, right?
Yes.
That's a huge lesson. So we hired Gene, and that was because that's what the team wanted. So I think that's just an example of including them in your decisions because they are affected by your decisions, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I want to kind of switch gears a little bit. I want to kind of look into the future of kind of where you're wanting to go. Whether it's business or life or whatever you want to share. What's something that you're really looking to accomplish here over the next 12 months?
Um, yeah. I've been in this business 50 years now. I just want to sell real estate. I really haven't slowed down. Still kind of working 40 hours a week. They're always getting on me. But I have taken a vacation every month this year. I
That's
will tell you
awesome.
that. Yeah, I've been away. So I'm doing more of that. I love to travel. So I want to do more of that. I want to read more. I love learning. I'm not done learning. So, but I want to learn about a lot of different things, right?
Yeah.
I'm a quilter. Um, we have a lake house. I love being by the water. I love boating. There's a lot of things I like. I just want to do a little more of it, but I don't want to quit selling real estate. So that, and at some point, I'm going to have to quit selling real estate, I'm sure. But yeah, so and plus, I'm an investor in the office here, so I help train, I teach. I like doing that. Only on subjects I know something about, though. They asked me to teach some of these things. I'm going, I don't know if I can really influential in that area. So that's I still want to the same thing I'm doing right now. This is like being on a vacation for me, not
Yeah.
having the day-to-day operations of the team and worrying about everybody. I mean, I would lose sleep at night, especially the financial crisis.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Here we have this lovely team, and we had two paid employees. Now, the people that are working on a professional fee, I mean, I worried about them, but I was more worried about how are we going to pay these people that we're paying a salary to.
Mm-hmm.
And these are people that have been with us a long time. So they're making really good money. And I'd lay awake at night and I'm like, who do I lay off? Oh my God, how do I do that? And who's going to take that job? I get that job back. I don't want it,
Yeah.
right? And so I sat down with both of them and I said, here's the deal. We got to figure a way not to lay either one of you off. Now, how are we going to do it? And we came up with each of them took 1 day a week off without pay. And it wasn't the same day. One took Monday, one took Friday. And we kept them employed. I mean, it still costs me money, but
Sure.
not as much. And we made it through it.
Mm-hmm.
We made it through it. But that was the collaboration with your team members and just saying, I have a problem. Help me solve this. How can we do this and keep everybody employed, keep you in your job? They knew the numbers. They knew the team numbers. They knew everything. So they understood. So, but anyway, future, I think I'm just going to keep doing what I'm doing. And, hopefully I'm a huge advocate for the pack, for our pack, or core pack here locally. So I do a lot of committee work at the national and state level. I'd like to get a little more engaged in that. I I like politics. I'm learning to hate it a little more these days. But I like that we're so influential as realtors
Yeah.
in our communities and that policies and issues and and candidates impact real folks, and we're the gatekeeper for being the bird dog watching all that and making sure that legislation and the policies they're making are good for our consumer, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I would like to get maybe a little more involved than I am in it, but I like that side of it. I'm not I'm not I'm not ready to retire. Let's put
Yeah.
it that way.
Yeah. Sue, what's a legacy goal for you?
um, I I founded not me by myself because nothing's ever accomplished. There's no power in the number one. But I did lead the founding of the Leadership Academy at Columbus Realtors
So,
after I was president of the association. And I looked around the country and I said, what do we not have that would benefit our members? Right. And so I saw these leadership academies going on at other associations. So I went out and I gathered all their stuff and I wanted to learn about what they had. And I took it to Stan Collins, who was our CEO at the time. And I said, I think we can do this. I mean, I think that we could put on a really good program and engage members of our community, educate them more, get them into leadership, not necessarily in the board itself, but in the community. I don't care if you led a PTA meeting, you know, it's knowing about Columbus and knowing about, and being a good ambassador for our town. And he endorsed it. Rick Benjamin was the president behind me, and he said, "Let's go for it." Marquet Bressler, she sat down with me. I said, "These are the people I want on the committee, our advisory board," and I handpicked them for different things they brought to the table, and together we collectively put together this leadership academy that is in its 13th year now.
yeah.
So that's probably one of my most proudest moments is the legacy that I want to leave of positivity and leadership at the board.
Everyone that I know that has gone through that has spoken so highly of it.
It's an amazing program. And, only 12 people a year can go through it. So I always encourage people, it's terrible to get turned down, but try again because so much value in it. And do we always win the first time we try something? No. So go back and apply again. Talk to the leaders that have done the interview. What could you have done better? Or did you do okay? It's just somebody did even better than you did, or they were a better match in that group. But it's a program I'm pretty proud of. It was a lot of work to put together. I had amazing people. I wish I could name them all, like Matt Gregory in the commercial world, Chris Reese, Barbara Locke, Lori Molnar, Gloria Cannon. Oh my God, Gloria Cannon. She's amazing. And then she went out. This is the greatest thing about influence, right? Gloria took that and she started the State Leadership Academy. And I helped her, but I let her go with it because I was tired. But and now she's coaching academies all over the country. Isn't that fabulous?
That's awesome. That's awesome.
That grew out of this little tiny nugget of an idea. It was so fun. It's so awesome. I love it. And I love it for her. I love that she's excelling in that, in taking that little nugget that we gave her the opportunity to do.
That's right. And with that, she latched onto it and owned it and wanted to run with it too, right? And that part of brings up
really comes from a heart of contribution. She really does, and I love it. And the other thing I'm most proud of is my team. My team is, they just, they're well respected in our community. I think I think they're known for high integrity, and so I'm really proud of that. And I'm proud that I don't have to lead it anymore.
Yeah. Sue, I have one final question for you. If you could give the audience one piece of advice, maybe you give your agents or any agents that come to you, or maybe one that you did receive when you got into the business, that stands out to you, that had a big impact on you and your career, what would that be?
Well, you're going to laugh. So every paycheck you get, put 30% away for taxes. The first couple of years, I didn't do that. And I found myself in a hot mess.
Yeah.
And I've learned.
I think, and I think that's part of the problem of our industry, right? Is they, you go to school to get your real estate license, but they don't actually teach you the art of running a business. And I was the same way, right? Like, the first part of my career, it was like, oh, like I got all this money and I was 22 years old, recently out of college. And I'm like, taxes. Okay, well, that's beer money, or that's vacation money.
Down the road.
We'll deal with that next year,
Yeah. It was a big shocker. It took about 3 years for me to learn that I needed to put some money away out of every check. Don't spend every dime you have.
Yeah.
So that, for somebody starting out, that would be my first piece of advice. And everybody new that comes to our team, that's the first thing I tell them. You put away 30% of every single check, just away. Don't touch it. Yeah. And your life is going to be so much better if you do that. I thought I was going to debtor prison or jail or wherever you go when you don't pay your taxes.
Yeah.
It wasn't a lot of money back then, but it was a lot of money to me.
But still, the hard part about that, it adds up, right? And then you're fighting out of a hole, and sometimes, real estate changes, quarter by quarter, year by year, month by month sometimes, right? And so, our income's not guaranteed. And so if that's just one extra thing that you have to now take care of or address or whatever, you're working twice as hard to get it, to take care of it. So it's so important because you're already fighting an uphill battle to begin with when you start out, in the business.
The other thing I tell people is just surround yourself with really good mentors and really good people that want to help you, and really want to see you grow. I think there's people that don't want us to succeed, but I think just learn to build a business. That's because it's not a job, it is a business, and you need to run it that way, even if it's just you, right? So
Yep. Well, Sue, thanks so much for your time today. I really enjoyed getting to learn a little bit more about you, your journey, just kind of how you viewed things, and how you navigated real estate and building a team. And there's a lot of things that I'm going to learn from that and that one aspect alone. For those watching, if you connected with Sue's story or resonated with Sue, and whether you're a buyer or seller and you're thinking about doing something in real estate, her phone number is down below. If you're a real estate agent and you want to pick her brain, maybe join her team, but just know it's going to be a long process.
Very long.
Make sure you connect with her. But Sue, for those that are maybe listening in, on the audible version of this, what is the best way for someone to connect with you?
And my cell number, 614-419-3100. Or you can email me, sue@thecolumbusteam.com.
Sue, thanks so much. And if there's anything I can do for you, I really enjoyed the conversation. If there's anything I can do to pay you back for your time and sharing your story and your real estate journey, please, don't hesitate to reach out to me. I'm here to help you and serve you any way I can.
Thanks for doing this. I when I called you, I'm like, why would you interview real estate agents? But then I went and looked at some of your things, and I'm like, oh my God, what a great way to get to know some of these people that I didn't really know.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's cool. Thanks for doing it.
Well, anytime. And I'm glad that, for your first one, hopefully it was a good one for you.
Yeah, it was fun. Thanks.
Awesome. I'll talk to you here soon.
Okay. Bye-bye.